Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, and welcome once again to the Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Talk Show. I'm your weekly host, Brother James Muhammad, and I'm honored to have on the show today three sisters from a business called Trendsetter Beauty Supplies, one of the few black-owned beauty supply companies here in Memphis. Good afternoon, sisters.
Good afternoon.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To my viewers who are not quite familiar with you and your type of business in the community, let's start off by introducing yourself, my sister.
My name is Jacqueline Allen.
Jacqueline Allen.
And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here and discuss this on your show.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm Burnell Fisher Spears.
All right.
And I'm Lori Page.
Lord. And we have three sisters who was inspired to go in business, but not just any business. You are trying to be successful in a business that is very hard for African Americans to get in. And it's shocking because it's dealing with African American beauty supplies. You would think you would find them on every corner owned by African Americans. Now, what inspired you to go in business and pick beauty supply business?
Well, this was a lifelong dream of ours as sisters, to go into business. So we decided what would be the best fit for us, and we thought that the beauty supply industry would be a good business to go into. So it's something that we always wanted to do as sisters. So that's how we got into it.
Now, when you decide to go into this particular business, was you familiar with all the difficulty factors that was attached to it? You know, there's many chicken places on our corners, there's many churches, there are many fast food restaurants, but it's not that many own black beauty supplies.
Well, as we got deeper into the process, we found out more about the difficulties of getting in. During the process of researching the business plan, we found out the limited amount of African Americans in the ethnic beauty care business.
Okay, now this is a multi-billion-dollar business a year within the black community, but we only control about what is the percentage of control for African Americans in the beauty supply business?
We are about 95 to 98% of the consumers, and we own less than 5% of the businesses.
Now, because when you go out through Memphis, on every corner, you might see a check cashing place, you might see a wing place, and you might see a beauty supply place. Most of those places are owned by people other than ourselves. Why do you think this trend has set so deep within the black community? When you go into the Caucasian community or Asian community, you see their beauty supplies owned by their people. But when you look into our community, you'll see that most is owned by Koreans, Arabs, and Asians.
Well, I think one of the things that has happened is that we've pretty much given that business up. Because it is a difficult business to run. You run into a lot of obstacles. There are a lot of products that are controlled by the Asians that are difficult to receive. But we just decided that this is something we wanted to do. We wanted to extend excellent customer service. We are very knowledgeable of the business, and I think it's a day and time when time is very important. And when people can walk in a business that's wholesome, that's clean, that's neat, and they can also be served. It's not just to walk in, pick up a product, and walk out. It's let's talk about what's going on with your hair, what's going on with your skin, and that's what's going to set us apart from what's going on in our neighborhoods. It's a time that we need to kind of take back what we once owned. And I think a lot of it had to do with running into those obstacles and just giving up. And we just decided to take the plow and roll with it. And that's one of the reasons why we came up with Trendsetters, because we're setting a new trend. And it's a trend that's going to be full of customer service, and you can walk in and feel good when you walk out.
Okay, now, one difficult factor is it's hard for us to go in business with our own family. Now we have 3 sisters here who decide to fulfill a lifelong dream. What other difficult factors or pros and cons that you face in, just as a family, business plan wise, financial wise, and what advice would you give those who are trying to set this same trend?
Well, there are a lot of pros and cons to go into any type of business, and one of the major ones is the accumulation of enough capital to make sure that you can run the business smoothly. The other is knowledge of what you're doing, business-wise, financially, and you really need to know the business itself. I don't advise anybody to go into business without a plan, without knowledge of the products they intend to sell or the services they intend to offer. Conversely, when you do decide that you want to go in, you have to figure that maybe I'm going in to be my own financial planner or be in charge of my own finances. But you also have to consider that that's going to take a lot of work. Even if you have sisters that you get along with, you got a lot of hours spent together, and things come up sometimes, but you have to be prepared to work through it, put in the hours. I think a lot of people think I'm in business, so I'll have a lot of free time. That's not true.
Okay. Because you work harder for yourself, right?
You work harder for yourself.
Yes, and you have a passion about it. And I think what's important here is that we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and we recognize that, and we play off of that. We respect each other, and we know when to agree to disagree. And we have good synergy, and I think that comes from our upbringing. And we've just decided that this is what we're going to do, and we're not going to let anything get in our way of doing it. And like Jackie said, there are a lot of pros and cons, but we're finding to take the cons and make those stepping stones and take the pros and just run with it and make the best out of it and keep a very positive outlook on everything. And we are very proud of where we are at this point. We have a lot of work to do still, but we're very proud of where we are. And she talked about the plan and the research. We didn't just spring into this overnight. We planned this several years before it actually came into fruition. And you have to be able to plan the work and work the plan, be able to take that on paper and actually help it come into fruition. And that's pretty much what we've done. And it's been a lot of work put into it, a lot of time, a lot of long hours, after hours. So
okay, now the competition factor. We're 99.9% of the consumers in the beauty supply business, but way less than that in owning the businesses. Now you have a lot of competition.
We have a lot of competition.
It seems like you're on an island by yourself. You're African American women, and women have a problem in business, just being women.
yes.
What does the competition look like in this type of business? I mean, you're surrounded by other beauty suppliers on all 4 corners.
Well, we are unique in a unique position in this business because it is controlled by others, by Asians, and that's fine. I mean, they moved in, they saw a niche, and they took it, and we didn't do anything about it. I think they started with, before about 1980, African Americans owned the beauty supply business and much of the manufacturing. But we just have to find our place in it, we have to find a